let's move on to the Western Conference where we got a
Whew.
doozy in Game 7 in Phoenix. Historic regular season team. This could be one of the worst losses in the history of the NBA playoffs, just in terms of expectations, performance, and then the ultimate outcome. And while a lot of the story has been on the terrible play of Phoenix, and obviously so, it was an egg to be the egg of all eggs. Chris Paul, non-existent, obviously dealing with an injury. Like it was just a given. And Devin Booker, a fine game, but in a game 7, there's just got to be more, quite frankly. And DeAndre Ayton only played 17 minutes. Monty Williams saying after the game, reasons being it's internal. That's not always a good sign. But you turn around and you look at this Dallas Mavericks team, man. Like Boston had the best record after the trade deadline. Dallas had the second best record in the league after the trade deadline. They have ratcheted up the defense, and it looks like Dončić, like this is the furthest into an NBA season he's played. So he's actually played himself into even better shape than he's ever been at, right? Because he's just playing more games and and we saw it. He's unlocked that level in the playoffs. He is the second leading scorer in NBA playoff history by average, only behind Michael Jordan. Obviously, not as many games, not nearly as many games played, but really impressive stuff from him in the series. I think he was 32, 9.5, and 8 or something, just off the charts, and really has unlocked what he wants to do in every single look on the court. And add on top of that, a 30 piece by Spencer Dinwiddie off the bench, Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith playing excellent defense, and then them just being able to space the floor and really pick the Phoenix Suns apart with their shooting. And then when they need something, it's Brunson or Dončić creating. It's really, really cool. And there's not much to actually say about the game itself because it was such a wash. But Phoenix is in very big trouble with how they want to move forward with their roster. And Dallas, you got to be licking your chops. This is a very beatable Golden State Warriors team in the Western Conference Finals here. And we could very easily see Luka emerging as the next great young player to take his team to the finals. Last person to do it at 23 was, of course, LeBron James.
Wow. Yeah, this Phoenix Suns team did not live up to the expectations of what they could play, but they didn't come out flat. They came out and got beat down by the Mavericks and could not for their life figure out how to get back up. All the credit has to go to the Dallas Mavericks for this before you start talking about the poor performance of the Phoenix Suns. So let's talk about the first 8 points Luka Dončić scored to just set the tone for this game. Let's talk about how DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges, two excellent defenders, were putty, like at his mercy. The step back threes, sure, he's going to get a couple of those, but the post points, he's posting up DeAndre Ayton. He's hitting Mikal Bridges with the spin moves and getting clean looks at the rim. That was like, honestly, up the magnitude not quite there, but in terms of how impressed I was, like the only thing I can cast my mind back to in recent memory was Giannis's ring-winning 50-point game. That it was just absurd from Luka. The 3-point confidence, the most terrifying thing you can imagine as an away fan. That alone might have been enough to win the Mavericks this game. But when Dinwiddie comes off the bench and plays as well as Luka did, at least in terms of 3 points confidence and shooting, and Brunson, not his best game of the playoffs, but at the average that he's set, which is a lovely, lovely contribution for the Mavericks. And then just so many open looks created for this team and all of them hitting their threes. Whether it was Kleba, Finney-Smith, Bullock, like the gravity of those three that I just mentioned created so many open looks for the rest of this team, and they were in rhythm. And then I have no idea what the Phoenix Suns were trying to run offensively, because they just got nothing going. And again, you have to give credit to this Mavericks defense first. Double teaming Booker really seems to take him out of this game. The only things he could get were when the Mavericks weren't set in their defense and coming up, there was a bit of space. If that was there, he was able to attack the rim. But other than that, nothing for him. I'll give credit one more time for Luka for playing excellent defense against Booker. Booker's first drive to the rim, Luka fouls him. He hits his 2 free throw shots. I think he was like 0 for 3 at that point in the game. And then 2 or 3 times that same quarter, a pretty similar sequence where Booker has some space, drives to the rim. And so much credit to Luka, who gets his hands up, keeps his feet moving, and deters the shot without the body contact that drew him that foul. I was really impressed with, like, obviously this Mavericks defense. We can do a podcast on, but we've talked about Luka dragging that down, and I thought in this game 7 he really stepped it up and contributed there. Chris Paul looked terrified to shoot a 3-point ball in the first half. I don't know what that was, because he was hitting them and making them earlier. So it wasn't like last year where he had that hand or shoulder injury. But just a couple looks that were there for a second and you saw him deferring. And yeah, Ayton in a bit of foul trouble. We'll talk about his future in a second, but all series, he was just nowhere really near what we thought he could maybe do, especially in this game, the 17 minutes, I guess part of why I didn't really notice him.
Yep.
And yeah, this Phoenix Suns scoring 40 points in the fourth quarter, and that was almost half of their points. Yep. They had 30 something points in the third quarter. That, like, the first quarter, I was like, I can't call it for Dallas yet, right? Halftime, maybe there's a chance. And then 4 minutes into the third quarter, it was over.
Well, it was the run to end the half where it was 20 and it became 30 in the last 2 minutes there, with a Luka step back 3, a Dinwiddie 3, and Luka just smiling in their face the whole time. Unbelievable that he backed up the people want to act tough when they're up statement after game 5, and he just absolutely delivered on it. And that's the learning curve. Is they had 2 game 7s against the Clippers, against tried and true performers that they lost in very tough situations, and they take the scars and they go into a game 7 against this Phoenix Suns team on the road, and they just destroyed them. And it's a ugly blemish on a pretty tattered Chris Paul legacy playoff resume. And now as Phoenix, you turn and look at your roster and you say, we got nothing out of our backup point guard. We don't necessarily have the secondary scoring. It's Booker, and then by committee. And DeAndre Ayton is not. They very obviously made it known that they're not paying him a lot of money, and he's going to ask for it. And so it is going to be most likely a move unless he's willing to take less. And I think that is a distressed asset that a lot of teams could instantly vault themselves into a contender category if they get their hands on him. He is the peak of what you want out of a modern NBA center. And that doesn't make him a max player, but it makes him immensely valuable. And I just think if Chris Paul 38 next year, you don't address the other needs on your team, and DeAndre Ayton goes out the door, we could see this Phoenix Suns team precipitously fall from a historic season into the play-in territory.
Yeah, and maybe it's not that shocking looking at where they were at not that long ago. Everything lines up for a short while, and then the wheel of time just keeps on turning. I do think Ayton will probably get offered a max contract by a couple teams, just by how there's little he can't do, enough that he's not really a liability. And the potential is just going to be too enticing with so many teams lacking at that center position. And yeah, I don't think the Suns will match it. But maybe they'll feel the pressure too. But then that runs its whole own risk, because you're right, he doesn't perform at a level to be worthy of that max right now. Last thing, fourth MVP of the Mavericks, Patrick Beverly.
Oh, I saw this too.
Oh
Phenomenal
my goodness,
stuff.
my guy.
This league is crazy.
Woke up early just to drive to the studio and slander Chris Paul. And I loved every minute of it.
So incredibly disrespectful. Matt Barnes calling him out. But hey, you got to pay the price when you lose a game like that. And
when you
Beverly
play the way
saying
you do,
no one's scared of the Suns. Chris Paul is a cone on defense.
No one's coming out and slamming Devin Booker after this game.
I'd say there's a fair number of people, just not as publicly.
No one's coming out and trying to drag Devin Booker over the coals, pour salt in those burning wounds, and then hang him up naked and stream it on Twitch.
I have to go back and watch Game of Zones, because there's some good Patrick Beverly moments in that as well. That's all-time stuff from Patrick Beverly.
I remember the one where KD's holding court and Beverly tries to entice him to the Clippers. But CP's defense, which Beverly probably harped on the most on his rant, definitely a huge part of the Mavericks' easy offense. I thought they actually could have attacked Paul a lot more than they did. There were a ton of times where they had a Brunson, had a Luka on him, and it's just like, get these guys in the mid-range, and like, you are happy with that shot selection. I think they were wary of his ability to draw fouls there. And he was playing very physical from the 3-point line. But just had to throw that bit in there, because actually that was about half of the NBA Reddit, just different takes from Beverly.
It was great. It was really great. So we take a look here at the Western Conference Finals. And you know what? I'm all the way in. I'm going with Dallas.
Wow.
I think it's going to be Dallas in 7. I think the physicality of Luka is going to be really tough for this Warriors team that had a difficult time containing Ja Morant. And they just don't have the wing defender. Like Klay Thompson is going to get bullied. Andrew Wiggins is going to get bullied. He's going to give up a ton of weight in that matchup. And it may end up being Draymond Green who gets that assignment. But then who's going to guard the rest of these other Mavericks guys? And meanwhile, on the other side, Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock, Jalen Brunson are all guys you trust to handle Curry and Poole, which are the main creators off the dribble for this team. And the Mavericks coaching staff did a great job against Phoenix, a really special coaching job done by Jason Kidd and his staff against the coach of the year, Monty Williams. And I think they're going to have something drawn up to really let Draymond. There are going to be some snapshots from this series of Draymond with no one around him for 20 feet. And that is going to be the guy they're going to make beat them. And I'm really, really fascinated to see how this series is going to go. I'm curious to see how long Looney's going to be out on the court, because very quickly this series is going to turn small ball with Kleba and Draymond being the largest guys on the floor when it comes down to it. And it's going to be really, really fun. Lots of creativity, very different in the way that Dallas is heavy ISO or picking out mismatches, whereas Golden State is that more free flowing off ball action. And those styles are going to contrast in an interesting manner. And without Kristaps Porzingis to pick on by these teams, Dallas has turned into a really strong defensive team. And I think they can pull it out again, because Luka has very easily the potential to be the best player in this series. And it's going to be him or Curry that ultimately decide this one.
Or Poole. I do think I see this as the best offensive team of this playoffs versus the best defensive team of this playoffs. Conventional wisdom, good offense beats good defense. But I'm riding with you on the Mavericks on this. This team has just been too fun to watch through these two series, overcoming the Luka injury, toughing it out without him, getting through against Utah, going down 0-2 against the Suns. I guess that's the second time the Suns have been up 2-0 and then dropped it. At least they pushed it to 7 this time. But yeah, Luka all the way. Get me on that hype train, baby.
That really makes me nervous because it feels like the recency bias has everyone picking Dallas now. And Golden State's a team that we don't forget won 3 titles in 5 years. So, or in 4 years, pardon me. So really, really interesting to see. Lots to break down when it gets underway. Eastern Conference Finals start tomorrow, and then the Western starts on Wednesday.